This is the PXG mini driver, the Secret Weapon. And I'm going to play around with where the weights are in the heads. We've got 2 heavier weights and 2 lighter weights. Currently I have the heavier weights in the middle, at the front and the toe. So I'm trying to bring the ball flight down and right. And historically with PXG clubs and PXG drivers, I've seen quite a big separation in flight and data when we move these weights around. And I think part of that is because the weights are so well spread out to the outside of the head, which gives us a bigger, more exaggerated difference when the weights do get moved around. I've got a few shots here with the weight in the front and the toe, which is how I would play this driver, and it's how I did play this driver. Or mini driver, and I find it much harder to turn the ball over to the left, which for me is delightful because I do generally get a little bit too far to the left hand side on a bad day. Now these are quite nice to play off the deck, but I would say that your skill level does have to be like a little bit more precise. But I quite like this as a healthy 3-wood replacement because I can basically hit a fade with the same distance that I normally get out of a bit of a drawy 3-wood. So I can kind of like, I've got an alternative on the golf course to aim up the left, let it drift to the right hand side of where I'm aiming and give me my normal 3-wood yardages. When I hit my 3-wood with a fade, it just comes up and it just falls back a little bit too much, and I might as well hit a good 7-wood or a good 3-iron. But we've got some shots here with this setting. Wow, and it's coming off very nice. That wants to get left, but that's as far as left as the club will let it go. Nice and healthy. Now when I get warmed up as well, like I can carry my driver about like in the top 290s, and then it runs through the 300 barrier. So if you're not on that spectrum, absolutely fine. I'm just seeing what the difference is when I get these different bits in here. In the past, I've hit some drivers that have had variable weights in there, and I've shown that with a shaft that twists more than another shaft, you get more difference again when you move the weights around. This is the Diamana Limited Series in a 70 gram stiff. Right, so I've got 4 shots on there in a very similar grouping. Let's move the weights around. So I'm going to put the heavy weight in the heel, which would make this draw biased, but technically lower launching, lower spinning because that heavier weight is at the front. Once I get this to line up, there we go. That goes in there. So we are here and here with the heavier weights. FH front heel. Let's go for a different color. Let's go yellow. I think that's yellow. I'm colorblind. Same ball, all we've changed is that weight into the heel. I'm going to feel like I'm putting the same swing on it. I don't want to hit too many because I don't want to start adjusting to the club. I just want to let this be. And then the shape is very different. So it'd be interesting to see how far different that is. I'm always impressed by PXG's change in flight when we mess around here. That's a big old difference. Similar sort of yardage. Cool. Again, I'm going to feel like I'm hitting the same shot. No, I've held it off. That was me. Because I knew it was going left and I tried to not make it go left. Ignore that one. Stock swing. There we go. That's more normal. Ooh, just left a little bit. I've drop kicked that a little bit, but it does have that little bit of extra behavior that way. So some of the thoughts behind how the weights change the direction in your club is that if we put the weight on this side of the club, this is lighter and it turns over quicker. If you put the weight over this side of the club, the heel goes through quicker. I disagree with that motion. What it basically does in my mind is it changes the center of gravity. So this stick is just there for the launch monitor, but it changes the center of gravity. If you hit the ball off the toe, you get more draw. If you hit the ball off the heel, you get more fade across the board with every club. When you move the weight over this side of the club to the toe, you move that center point over. So when you strike it in the middle, you're in the fade area. And equally, if you put the weight over to this side, you move the center point over and you hit the ball in the middle and you're in the draw area. So it changes the gear effects and the moment of inertia on the club to change the behavior of the ball flight. It doesn't necessarily make it flip over or make it hold open more. Now that was low and heely, but it's maintained pretty well-ish. When I put one of the heavier weights in the back of the golf club, we technically get more forgiving. When you have the weight at the front and you hit the ball in the middle of the face, you get more ball speed because that mass is directly behind that strike. When you hit it off center, it twists around that point. So we get a little bit more deflection, we get a little bit more loss in ball speed from that off center hit. So it depends on the golfer as to where you need that weight. Yeah, okay. I have to fight that to stop it happening, but it is much more available with the weight in the heel. So let's get that weight out of the front. And in terms of off-center hits, this could be the most forgiving setting, where I've put the heavier weights on the toe and the heel. So when we get that ball off center, we've got mass there, we've got mass there to stop it from deflecting as much in theory. And the way to tell which are the heavier weights in the PXG clubs, generally speaking, is that there's no paint in the little gaps in there. When we go to that one, there's 4 dots of paint extra in black. So it's a little bit more subtle, but that would indicate the heavier weight without having to look at the underneath of the weight itself. So this is heel toe. So does this feel any different off the face going here? Felt pretty good off the center. Just lean into that left hand side because my toe weighted preference just holds that off a little bit more. Felt pretty good through the ball. And of course on the settings as well, we also have the ability to play around with the loft setting here, so we can set the loft at lower, higher, so we can change how that club sits, we can change what loft we get presented to the ball, but that is a separate element. We are just looking at the weights. Quite enjoyed that one there. Same sort of thing, just lean into the left hand side. I wouldn't say that's as far left as the draw setting. It could be, but I'll have a look. But it's not as right as the fade setting for sure. Nice, not too bad. Let's keep that weight in the heel and go heel back. Weight in the back. I wouldn't normally do this myself because I don't feel like I need the extra help in terms of the off-center hits. We'll see. And hopefully this video will just help you narrow down into the ideal one straight away, instead of having to try out all of these different settings in one session, because you get tired by the time you get to the end of it. So this is like a higher draw setting. And we'll see like what the difference is in height from having the weight at the front to the back. What I probably should have done is done this without knowing what's in the bottom of it, but never mind. Definitely higher launching. Definitely. It does feel different off the face. It doesn't, actually feels a bit easier through the ball. Doesn't quite feel as like clunky as such. Feels like I'm getting up to it a little bit easier. Don't know. High draw. Nice. I didn't feel as much deflection or distortion off the face. A little bit thin. That's 3 of them. Let's go back toe. Then actually the one I haven't done is front and back. So like down the middle of the club. Be interesting to see if that's better than heel toe, because it's technically like more mass behind the face, but also more mass at the back for that bit of forgiveness. So I didn't actually think of doing that. I'll just go straight to the toe. Toe back, so this is TB. Felt good. Definitely am more psychologically happy with the weight in the toe. Feel like I've got a bit more freedom to release the club, because I know it's harder for it to encourage that left shot, encourage that left shape, although it did there. So it could be that I need the weight at the front and the toe to get the most out of it for me. And then let's get front back down the line. I need an electric screwdriver to get these in and out really quick. The only thing is you don't want to over tighten them. You definitely do want to use one of these tools to make sure you don't over tighten the thread. Back, front. More ball speed off the front, more forgiveness off the back. We get both. Didn't realize there were so many settings you could have with just the 4 weights, or well, 2 and 2. That feels more, there's more movement in the shaft, feeling wise. Obviously not a great swing. Ooh. That's nice. Oh, felt better than it went. I think I prefer to have the settings in the draw or in the fade personally, because it's like I'm using those settings to make a shot happen instead of it being in the middle or the outside and going, I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm just sort of relying on my natural sort of movements. I'd rather go, right, it's in the toe, it's out the front, it's going to move that way, make it move that way. Support the settings that I've gone for. That's just me though. So there's a lot of shots on there. I didn't try to mess around too much. Just going to take out the odd like outlier shot, consistent. Yeah, no, maybe just leave them all in. Leave them all in, let's not take any out. 104, 104. Okay, so we've got 3 of these peak heights. We've got 104, 104, 109, and that is with the weight in the front toe, front heel, and heel toe. Okay, so heel toe, it's not the front or the back, it's just on the sides, which is why the peak height's gone a little bit higher. I've got the lowest ones with the weight in the front. So weight in the front, 104 at the front of the head. At the back of the head, we have that heel toe. We've got back, and then back and front. So these ones here, we've got 114, 121 with the heel back, toe back, and then just that smidge lower with that in the back front. So we get a bit more weight at the back and the front there, and the height has come down. So the peak height, the highest point the ball reaches, matches where the weight is in terms of front, back and middle. So middle being heel toe. We're going from a range of 104 feet up to 121 feet. So there is a decent separation between them. And again, I've not even played around with lofts. I've not played around with shafts. Let's see if I can get all of these. So there's 6 different settings. Yeah, that's a lot to digest. Yellow to the left on the heel. We've got a bit of a mixed bag there. Can we get offline on here? Oh, it doesn't give us the offline. Ball speed's all about the same. So front toe, front heel. So we're looking at 1.2 yards left against 17 yards left. And then heel back, toe back, we're looking 2.6 yards against 4.2 yards. So not as much difference there. So back and front, when the thing's down the middle, we're looking 5 yards left, 4 yards left, 2 yards left. Not a huge difference with the weight at the back. When we get the weight at the front, we get a bigger difference in that left to right dispersion. So weight at the back, with that extra forgiveness, reduces how much offline you can get. It makes it lean just a little bit. But when you have the weight at the front, you get a bigger dispersion left to right in terms of where the weight is heel and toe. Interesting, which is probably why I like it at the front and the toe, because I'm like, this will fade for me, obviously. If you hit a massive hook, then you'll just get less hook. So there is a lot of data to digest, but the patterns are pretty consistent with what the weights are doing. Again, I do stand by PXG in terms of their weighting on all of their woods and drivers. It does work. We just need to know where to look. Heel back, toe back, I've got a bit less speed marginally, but I've definitely got more spin. So the spin gets up into that 3,000 area. And with the heel toe, with them sort of in the middle, 3,000 area. With the weight at the front, I get marginally less. Doesn't really change much, to be fair. So we've had a bit of lean and a bit of lean and a bit of up and a bit of down, with all the weights being in different places. With the head being smaller than a normal driver, it's not as far out as we do get with like the Gen 6, Gen 7 driver. Does the Gen 7 driver exist yet? I know the Gen 6 does. But again, smaller head, it's on the outside of that smaller head. We do get some different flights from those things. If we're over to the toe, the ball's going to move to the right hand side easier. If we're over to the heel, the ball's going to move to the left hand side easier. If the weight's at the front of the head, we're going to get a bit lower launch, and if the weight's at the back of the head, we're going to get slightly higher launch. Use those things to just manipulate the ball for like a little bit and encourage the shot you want to hit. I would say this is more like a big 3-wood, not for the faint-hearted. If you never hit a driver off the deck, and you think, oh, I'm never going to hit a driver off the deck, then you need to make sure that you try one of these out before you buy one, in my opinion. Unless you're only going to hit them off the tee. I quite enjoyed in Portugal hitting this off the deck, because it was basically just giving me my 3-wood yardages, like guaranteed, that I'd normally use off a tee. But you do have to get into you do have to kind of like get into the ground and sort of squeeze it out with a decent amount of skill around that area. I've just waffled there. So let's call it a day. See you later. See you on the next video.